Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is One Day Today, episode 140. So good to have you with us. I am excited to have our guest today, who you'll meet in a moment. But I always like to check in before we get started. And what's in my space today is, in the state of the world, and which is a relative thing. Every moment is a new moment. But in the state of the world and the conversations of the world, what power do you and I have to really impact the individual and collective experience of yourself, your neighbor, your friends, your family, strangers, people you don't even know, or maybe people you don't even like. Like what like how do you and I, with all this ever expanding world and globalized, more interconnected than we've ever been, you know, what power do we have to actually impact and empower and uplift our neighbors next door and across the world? And that's what this platform and this stage is about, is people who have leaders who have experienced things in their life that have allowed them to experience themselves and the courage to overcome some hard times and some trauma, some trials, some fears. Whatever was there for them was there, and but the other side of that, we get to receive the gift of who they are and what they're committed to greater than themselves. And that's there's something unique. And I don't know why this popped up. Maybe because the Oscars was this weekend, but the movie Everything. It's actually Matthew introduced. Matthew, could you join us, because I want to bring you in on this. I remember getting a call from about that movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and it you're like, just see, don't even watch the trailer, don't even do anything, just watch it. And I did that, and I was just blown away. But one of the things like that struck me is I watched a clip on YouTube of what the director said, which really hit me and really resonated with me. And I'm paraphrasing, was that why they made that movie was so everybody knows that nobody is more important than anybody else. Everybody has something beautiful and unique in this world. And that's, I mean, whether we dive into talking about this movie or not, but I really see that's that it's stories like that, media like that, leaders who are sharing authentically and boldly and courageously. That's what I feel like what inspires us to rise above those old conversations of separation, of division, of we can't do this because of that, and those people don't or never get along with those people. And the conversations that at this point have become cliche for you and I, Matthew, just talking about. But yeah, that's why we're here, is to share just uplifting stories of people who've overcome you know extraordinary circumstances and came out on the other side with so many gifts of what and who they are, and for us all to receive.
Yeah, so I'm having a bit of connection issues. But yeah, there was that movie and a couple others that as I watched them, I felt myself just starting to relax. And
Mm,
and I got really curious as to what that was about. So I started looking at it very carefully. And it was after I watched the movie Encanto specifically, where I just felt this really deep state of, okay, I can let go.
mm,
And so the question came up, what can I let go of? And I went back over the movie and like Everything Everywhere All at Once and Soul and like actually a lot of the newer Disney Pixar movies, and a couple others. And I noticed the theme in all of those movies was shifting from this theme of trying to shape the external world to create happiness, create satisfaction and contentment.
mm.
And that was a theme that I saw in every single one of those movies. It's all about shifting the internal state of being and the stories that we have, the context in which we speak and act and do really have
Hey, Matthew, your
and
internet was breaking up.
my internet connection.
I but
Yeah,
I heard the beginning of
I
what you
think it
said.
is. Yeah.
Well,
Um,
I definitely hear what you're saying and pointing to, and just to like kind of add on to what you're saying is, you know, I feel like media, at least on the mainstream level, that usually isn't something that I think I've been ever been remember experiencing, and it's encouraging to me that as the world, I mean, after the pandemic and we experienced this global trauma, I feel like there's been this beautiful renaissancing of authentic, vulnerable leadership that and maybe this is me putting two and two together, but there's just a golden opportunity that we've had with the pandemic on, on the other side of all the suffering and pain that it caused and is still causing. there's there's been this golden opportunity for the individuals to be able to empower people with the media they create, and I don't know, it feels like it's a new way, and that's just me. But Matthew is having technical difficulties, but I'm really excited to have our guest here today. She's going to share with you a story, and we're going to chat with her as well. But please welcome, the first time to the stage, Nadia Linda Hull.
Aloha,
Hello, Nadia.
everyone.
Welcome. So glad to have you. And Matthew's back too. Let's see if he's
yeah,
there. He is.
I'm going to jump back in really quick. Hopefully, this internet's connection is more stable from here on out. Nadia, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you. Lovely seeing you again.
So, Matthew, please finish your thought and hand it over to Nadia.
I'm not sure exactly where got cut off at, but basically, like this, seeing this theme played out in all of these movies, the shift from trying to change the external world to create happiness to actually looking internally and creating happiness internally first, just brought this really deep sense of relaxation. Like it's okay. Like the kids are going to be okay. That was the big one. The big one for me is the kids are going to be okay. Like the message is shifted. They're not being taught to look for the rescuer anymore. They're not being taught to be the hero anymore. They're not being taught to be the victim anymore. They're now being taught to be self-contained, to be sovereign, to be aware of their internal environment, and to learn and to work with that internally. And that just brought this huge sense of relief.
Yes.
And I'm still doing that work. I'm still putting that out there, but I don't feel the pressure to try and change anything anymore, which is really nice. Like I can just be me, and like whenever that comes out, it comes out, which is lovely.
Well said. I
And
love it.
yeah, I'd love to hear, like, Nadia, if that's a jumping off point for you, if you want to dive into that, or if there's something else you want to share. Like I feel like that's your cue.
Yeah. I'd like to share that we spent the night together. So, it turns out that like an old friend of mine is like Matthew and I and my husband to be, we spent like February 14th, I think 8 years ago together.
Yeah, 2012, I think is where it was.
2013. Yeah.
2013.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, because it was just after the solstice. I remember that. I
Yeah.
remember, yeah, my dear friend Catherine introducing us that like
Yeah.
February that year. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I've been in your house. We've spent the night together, and it was a lovely evening.
In my bed. What do you mean in my bed? No. So, but just to look over, to look at all the what's happened since then.
Yeah.
Like back then we were God, the nuts stuff that we like were upset about and fought about, and now it's 8 years later, and we were just doing our best to be ourselves back then, attempting to change the outside world, and the best gift we have is just who we are like right now. Yeah. So saying it, like you've already heard everyone say it like 1,000 times. This is me on like 3 hours of sleep on one of the most difficult days of my life, and the things to be grateful for. I'm really grateful that we got the tech working. So, and you asked me to speak about trauma. So trauma. There's someone named Jim Self who has worked with thousands of people, and we got to know him pretty well. You know, we came up. You know, we used to host his workshops, and at the end of a series, he had me come up to the top of the room and said, "I want everyone to look at Dr. Linda. Um, you know, out of the thousands of people he's worked with, I won the prize of being one of the top 2 people who's been through the most trauma, the most pain and suffering, and somehow ended up okay." And that was how many years ago? That was, God, my baby was like maybe a toddler. So that might have been 30 years ago. And whatever trauma I experienced up to then has been magnified about 1,000 times since then. And if I were to tell the stories, uh, I mean, I'm not sure how much to say online here. The stories are pretty bad. And I can laugh because what? You ask, oh, phone, please shut up here. You asked for like what tools can bring me back to being okay. You know, I've taught this work. I've treated a lot of people. We started a heroin clinic. We worked with a lot of people in trauma, and it was easy helping other people. But what's helped me, you know, besides the teachings, which we all know right now, I mean, everyone's teaching them, is, you know, doing my best to be in my body and be with the breath and just be with what is. And with what is pretty uncomfortable because of all the trauma bubbling up and all the places where a lot of you guys who are on this call, you're probably empaths, you're probably HSPs, for you feel not only you but everyone else too. So that can be a little overwhelming. And so what I found for myself, and it's also documented in, you know, in psychology, you know, the American Conference of Energy Psychology, which teaches all sorts of beautiful energy stuff. And I'm going to teach Qigong for them this year. Yay, yay, yay. Um, that you can do all the spiritual work and all the mind work and all the mindfulness stuff and all the like your head can know everything, but as long as it's still stuck in your heart or your gut, it's still stuck. And what we need for that is like body stuff, like movement and breath and dancing. So what? I'm not sure what else to say here. Rather than talking about it, I'd rather us practice it. And you ask, like, what if I had, you know, what makes the most difference? And the studies have shown, and there's some study just came out, I think, like, I don't know when it came out, but now it's like been floating around online today about how breath work is actually more powerful than mindfulness. Yeah. You know, we can get our mind quiet, but can we get our hearts and our guts quiet when they've been like abscesses coming to a head during the pandemic? During the pandemic, we didn't have the usual distractions, the usual things that take us away from ourselves. And for those of us who did the deeper work, I did my best to do it, but still a lot bubbled up. That that beyond knowing and being aware and meditation and that movement is what will help, you know, bring you to the next level, you know, get you to the next resting spot. Yeah. Aisha Clinton, the founder of, you know, someone who's a grandmother in energy psychology and is the healer for a number of really big name people. She talks about how It's medically documented and clinically documented and studies documented, but in her work too. There'll be people who have done everything that they can possibly do in terms of meditation, in terms of practices, in terms of reading, in terms of like knowing. And then she gets them to go like chop wood or run or move, and that makes the biggest difference. I think, Matt, you asked me like, how do we make a big impact? The other like studies are coming out, but but they were already done a long time ago. It's like it's coming out again. It's what you know beyond like all that stuff we do for ourselves. What's made the most difference for me, and what the way you can make a difference for people is same, good old fashioned love. you know, love, 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 love. You know, what's the that other song? I found love, never knew I needed it. I found love, never crossed my mind. There are a number of people. God, one's Greg Reed. Because he probably will end up watching this because well, maybe he won't, but if he does, he's a big deal, and I'm like nobody. And all through the pandemic, he talked about how he has a practice where he just sort of goes through his Rolodex and randomly will text someone like a little hello, I love you. And his little doses of love, made a huge, huge difference. Yeah. And when I've been in those places where I've gone as far as I can. Oh, another thing is voicing. And I actually voice what I need, or I voice to someone who holds that love. Um, yeah, that moves a chunk in my heart. Yeah. So that's what's helped me, and that's what I do my best to be. In the like before the pandemic, I had all these visions of. I've spoken on big stages, and I've had like little old me. I've had like maybe a lot of like I won't say the numbers, but I've had big online stages too, and a lot of likes and a lot of people in the audience. That the numbers don't matter to me anymore, and the stages don't matter to me anymore. What matters is that I can be as real and as authentic as possible with whatever is in front of me. This summer it was a parrot that I had to take care of, and the parrot ended up being my marriage had fallen apart, and my husband was living with someone else, and yada yada, all that, that heartache, and then a ton of other things too, that made my marriage really little, more heartache. And there was a day where I had a gig lined up, and it was all magical and organic, where it's not that you line it up; it just happens. And the morning I was supposed to drive to my gig, which was over an hour away, the car died. So I was stuck with this parrot that so embodied and mirrored back to me all the stuff in my hubby that drove me nuts in my marriage. and and so my job was to be as present as possible, as loving as possible to myself, to the parent. Notice what came up. The frustration, the anger, the in both of us. And when I finally got there, and this parrot would trigger all the stuff my hubby would trigger. The parrot would go squawk, and I go ah! I go into like CPTSD, PTSD. I go into trauma, fear, or fright response. I went, wait, this is only a parrot. I'm the adult, and so with the breath work, with this self discipline, with that self mastery, you know, I got to the place of the parrot that I got that Matt and I were like years ago that we wanted to be back then. With Catherine and Matt and my hubby to be, where 8 years ago we were all squabbling, and that place where we want to be, where instead of dumping my frustration, my anger, my reaction, blaming my triggers on the parrot. I with the practice, with the breath, with the self-discipline, I could like be with all that stuff in me. And the parrot and I had a beautiful weekend together. I mean, I was so, it was better than the whole audience. It was like, "Ah, the parrot loves me. I love the parrot. We're both happy. Yay." And so there's a place where, as I've aged a lot in the last, year or two. I met my hubby. Man, I was, people thought I was 20, and that was 8 years ago. I've aged maybe 30 years in the last 2 years. And I can feel my age. Where with the, I got COVID 3 times. I think I've got I like to blame it on COVID, but my mind doesn't work the way it used to. It takes way, way longer to get things done. And so I take great joy where it's hard to quite verbalize this. It's not like going around trying to make everyone happy and trying to heal everyone. And it's like God puts me with someone and I get really present and we reach that place that Rumi talks about. We're beyond the field of right and wrong, and we just love each other, and we both come out in a better place. And then it's cool watching little things that happen. Meaning, with the chi, with the love, there's some pretty big things that can happen. Meaning, we've had, I think during COVID, 2 close to brain dead or about to die people come back. We've had relationships go from total breakdown to coming back in love. We've had people have their businesses take off, and it's the chi. Oh, what's chi? Chi is that stuff that's hard to put in words. If you're Christian, it's the Holy Spirit. If you're Native American, it's Great Spirit. If you're, God, I'm not sure what it is. If you're, I was going to say Jewish or Jehovah's Witness, but it's that. And I was adopted in college by the. I didn't mean any of that in a anything way. The Jewish tribe adopted me in college as, my maiden name was Chu. So they said, you're Jewish, you're part of the tribe. It's that that stuff that you can actually measure with, I've got like all these studies that measure chi, you can measure it with sound waves, you can measure it with acrylic photography, you can measure it with, there are a lot of ways you can measure it. And, it's the energy of love that brings life back, that heals relationships, that that helps us move forward. Yeah. So as corny as that may sound, what I'd like to share when we get back together is just a breath practice that helps us get there quicker. Yeah. I could go blah 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 for a long time. Do you guys have any questions there?
Well,
And I'm
first
really
off,
yeah.
well, thank you, Nadia, for sharing. There's so much to unpack, and I definitely welcome some kind of breathing exercise. That sounds amazing. Well, just to there's a few things you said that I wanted to dive deeper into. One of them, what you were talking about, triggers and how it's not about making everybody happy, how it's not about, and it reminded me of the idea that peace, it was something I deeply value, is not the same thing as avoiding conflict. It's those, because if we just lived on an island and had our ears plugged and like no drama, nobody in my, just just in our, or in a cave, just kind of keeping to ourselves, we'd be avoiding. That's not how life works. It's our communal. It's when we show up that drama happens, that obstacles happen, that difficulties happen, but that's when it's most important, where you're speaking to the self-mastery, when we can see those feelings arise, the anger, the resentment, the fear, whatever it may be. But it's those triggers that are even though it doesn't feel like it at the time, in my experience, the triggers are those opportunities to check in, because we might be very justified just to take that anger and to act angrily and to continue to perpetuate that energy, but you're basically disrupting, you're acknowledging an emotion, you're taking a breath and taking away a negative power. You're channeling something bad, something scary, or something into something beautiful, or into something where you're choosing and responding rather than reacting to your emotions and to your what's happening in your circumstances. So I think it's so powerful what you're saying, because that is
No,
really
it's key right now. It's really key. It's what we're being called to live to be. And I got I didn't take notes here. Matt, you were talking about having conversations. It's actually about not having a conversation. No, not engaging. People with post-pandemic, people are like ready to engage in something to hook you in, to find a place to let's process this. And that processing can actually become colluding, and can may not serve the highest good, which is totally opposite what I just said earlier, like ask for your help. But that was different. Asking for help from an authentic place of like, I need this. Can you help me here? That's yes. Find your voice. Fudge shares. So there are two things. There's a woman named Fauzia who's amazing, 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 amazing. She teaches in Vienna. I've only met her online, and I was up in the front of a whole audience of women. They made me go up front there. And I didn't want to ask anything that was heavy. So she talked about how to serve food. So I asked about food and how to serve food, and she said, "What'd she say?" She said, "Tell me about your marriage." I went, "What?" There. I said, she said, "How on a scale of 1 to 10, what is it?" I said, "Well, blah, 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 blah." Well, if you can't say anything, it's obviously, why are you still in it? She read me. She reads beautifully, and she teaches exactly what you just said, Adam. That the divine feminine that's doing its best to come out right now. Right now, we're in the divine masculine, the divine feminine. Yeah, the old white imperial. It doesn't, you don't have to be white. The old power, greed, money, king of the hill, queen of the hill. From that, the lower chakra stuff, we're moving to upper chakra, heart, that knowing that doesn't even know it knows, and that divine power that's way, way stronger than any two-legged power. Yeah. She teaches that part of the divine feminine, and as women, we get a sort of a jump start in that because we got boobs and we make babies, so we got to be in our hearts, and you guys, quote unquote, catch up, but it's not because of anything. It's just we're made for different things, different times. And when you're guys, oh my God, I mean, a good man with a heart open is like, God, that's worth more than $1 million there. So, so Fauci teaches that the role of a woman, the role of divine feminine, is to say what no one wants to hear, what people are going to be really upset about, but needs to be said, and will cause like a whole boom, for the greater peace. It's got to be brought out. Like a zit has got to come to a head for the pus to be released. I spent time with the elders on Mauna Kea. I think you guys know about Mauna Kea. Yeah, you know Mauna Kea. Yeah, were you? Did you spend time up there too, Matt?
No, I never made it up there, but I've spent time with several of the elders.
Okay, so Mauna Kea, when they excuse my French, when they built like the Dick telescope on the last secret face of the mountain, where they already had like 13 telescopes, and they could have built the telescope on the ruins of one of the old telescopes. the elders went up there, and they're old, and they're really old, and they drew a line. So important now to draw a line of what do you hold sacred, and what's sacred in you, what were you born to take a stand for, to hold a line for. They held that line. I'm gonna cry here. Where I love some of those elders there. I spent some time up there. They actually invited me to the Kapuna tent. And they have like a little thing on YouTube or somewhere where they go, Nadia, she's a real deal. She does the healing work. But they what they taught is that when you I couldn't be on the line myself, as I'm a doctor and a parent, I can't get arrested. They said when you're on the line, all you're allowed to be, all you're allowed to give is kapu aloha. Nothing but love, period. Period. And when that cop is there, who's not like a local cop who loves you and cares about you, says, Auntie, I can't arrest you because I love you, but I got to arrest you because you're my aunt, because I got to do my job. When you got a cop that they brought in the National Guard, they brought in the cops on other islands who actually tore down the children's tent and did stuff that like, why hurt the kids? When you got a cop there that you can't find him, you can't connect. And when they have you on the floor and they're putting in the tent, hey, all you're allowed to be is love. And you can't do that. And they would say, we know you guys. You guys, you've got people, you got stuff with your family. You go down, get off the mountain, get that stuff healed. So when you come back, no, only aloha. Yeah. And that's important for us right now. And the place, yeah. Aloha, aloha, aloha. It's especially important with all that's. We've gotten a little bit numb to this, where fudge here. I could go on and on. And that place that's so tricky, where we don't really, we're the narrative, where they were telling the people on the island that the telescope was good to bring in jobs and be good for the island, but it wasn't necessary to soil, to graffiti the last sacred face of the island, of the mountain. Peace is a big deal for you, Abram.
What was the last thing you said?
A peace, is that a big deal for you, or for you, Matt, or Abram?
Oh, I would say peace is among one of my core values.
Oh yeah, the peace is a big deal for me. Where I spent time in Palestine and I got to see what not everyone sees. And I spent time, my practice. We were the only ones that worked with the druggies, with the people no one would work with. I spent time in San Quentin, and the studies are showing that the people we label as criminals, the people we label as mentally ill, they just have ACE. They just have adverse childhood effects. Now, if you or I had the same childhood as one of the San Quentin mass rapists and mass murderers had, where would we be? But maybe what they did was normal to the point where they did their very best to cope. And so there's a fellow named John Davies. I got to spend, I got to call him back here. He worked for the Navy War Department as a peacemaker. And those studies that that go viral with the Marawashi effect and the Tia meditations, where they would do that and that would help during the war. He himself served on that Harvard panel of researchers. He's an OCD. He's OCD. He went to the same prep school as I should call my ex. I shouldn't call my hubby. And so he did his best to make the research, the data, bulletproof. And they didn't publish all the data because it was too good to be true. When he got like 100 people in the Lebanese war, I think the Lebanese war, some Lebanese war, doing that deep meditation, the deep prayer, that place where there's only love, where there's not a conversation, all there's left is love. There's not any like blah 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 blah, blah going on. It's just that place like a really good orgasm. There's only love. There's no you. There's no me. You don't even know what happened. There's just love. He had maybe 100 people meditating deeply. They couldn't do it all together because it was dangerous. It'd be maybe 10 here, 20 here. They had about 1,000, 2,000 around the world in deep meditation. Guess how much the battlefield death rate lowered by?
I remember this. I can't remember the exact number, but I remember the study you're talking about. It was pretty significant. Like it was a what was the actual wording they used? A non something to the effect of like it was well above and beyond the expected plus minus range. Like it was a significant finding.
It was 95%.
Yeah.
And all
It was
the
crazy.
headlines, the domestic abuse, the stuff, like all the headlines all changed too. We had one person do it in New York for just an hour. The same thing. The first day in the history of New York, there was no violent crime. Yeah. So we as like little, the place where one of you talked about movies where we're all the same, nobody's more important. Right now, if we can all do our best to do whatever it takes to get as empty as possible in that space of love that's beyond romantic love that's beyond mother-child love, a love that sort of doesn't have words to it. That someone is hello, whoever is out there, hello, yeah. The same place in your brain that lights up with orgasm, the same place in your brain that lights up with peak spiritual experience. It's the same point that lights up with orgasm. So that place that's beyond words, where we're here to make something new. The more we can do that for ourselves with each other, maybe there'll be like one more kid that comes home from like the Ukraine battlefield, or escapes from sexual trafficking, or that collective little like beams of light. The more we can come together and make that light bigger, the better it is, the better it will be. Yeah.
And at the same time, I feel like it's perfect now. Like it's not one or the other. I feel like it's both.
Duality and oneness. You're correct. It's all perfect right now, and then there's a spark to awaken each one of us to not in good, right, bad, wrong, but what do I need to do today, this moment, for more beauty, more peace, more love in my heart, and let the overflow spill over and make its little impact.
Yeah, exactly. Because that brings it back home to the personal for me, which instead of telling others what's best for them, inviting them to discover what's best for themselves, and like I've found that to be an entire spectrum.
Yeah. No, we don't have any right to tell anyone, except for our kids who are like, pre-puberty, what's best for them. Right to tell our spouses, our housemates, or anybody.
Yeah, and when we hold space to let them discover that for themselves, it feels like so much more opens up. Like there's so much more creativity, there's so much more interaction, there's so much more love. Instead of it's mind-boggling. I'm in a relatively new relationship with a woman, and we're experiencing that now, and it's like in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks, she has demonstrated to me the power of just holding space and doing nothing, and it's amazing.
Yeah. When we came back to the island with my then hubby, or when I brought him places, like mouths would drop open. They say he can't be. He's not that person. It's a freaking miracle. It was just, it wasn't sessions. It was like holding me and community, holding space, just loving him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yep. Exactly.
One
Do we have
one thing.
Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna. It reminds me. I don't remember exactly. It was from a lecture I listened to by an author and a spiritual teacher I really love named Richard Rohr, and I don't remember I wish I remember the exact quote, but basically his point was our ability to radiate and give love correspond or correlates to how much we're willing to receive love from source, from God, from whatever word we use to point that. And I think that's so, I really hear that in what you're saying is, you know, it's always an option to love, and and sometimes to our own detriment. We can, our fear of losing love, or love can make us do crazy things sometimes, as they say. But I feel when we're actually being in that place from love, coming from love, that's only possible when we can actually receive it and know who we are, rather than identify with who we're not, the things we've done, our thoughts, our
Yeah.
feelings, our
Yeah.
emotion,
That's the
all the things that
yeah.
the
Yeah.
past that burdens,
Yeah.
what's possible.
Yeah. That's actually one of the key shifts right now. And then whoever is there, hello, hi there. So, when you talk about giving and receiving love, that can get tricky because it starts becoming personal, romantic, and worthiness, yada yada yada. If you talk about it as chi and just simple breath techniques, simple exercises to help move the chi, that can be more effective in helping you, making you a bigger vessel container, cleaner container for the chi to move.
Yeah.
Does that
So
make
we've
sense?
absolutely,
Yeah.
and we've
Yeah.
got about 8 to 10 minutes left. There was an
Okay.
exercise you wanted to do.
Yeah,
If you'd
there
like
is.
to,
There, thank you. Wait,
yeah, yeah.
another point too is that one key is the place where you're talking about self awareness, to focus more on the good, to focus on more your future self, what the chi wants to bring you, what you're really meant to be. That's a real shift in your self observation, self awareness, self appreciation, self love. So okay, so the time we got left, yeah. Um, so silver spread, stretching your spine up into earth. I grew an inch and a half taller with qigong. Make space between your vertebrae for the energy to move. For the signals to pass on through. Drop your shoulders down and back, and literally drop your shoulder down and back. That opens your heart and it helps like all the stuff that you've let like sit on you. It helps all that stuff roll off. All the burdens, all the voices. One hand your heart chakra, one hand to slow your navel on your womb where that new you is being birthed. And it's a simple aloha. And you want to feel it vibrating in your hand. And you want to have your lao gong point, the point that's in the middle of your hand over your heart chakra here, and feel that sound vibrating in your hand. Ah, 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 ah. And give yourself permission to voice what you might really want to voice. To say, I love Catherine, and we both love her. But all the stuff that you want to go with Catherine, Rather a conversation, just make some noise about it, and not make it about anyone. It's the roars you've got in you. All the Catherine experiences, all the woman experience, the men experience, all the times we've been hurt, disappointed. Ah, 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 ah. Feel it vibrating in your hand. And then on the low, belly out, low Hawaiian Wakahi, we're all one. underneath the skin. We're all one. So low and push your belly out and hold it for as long as you can there. And you push out a little further, and then let it go. And make the out breath longer than in breath. You're aiming for a soft belly. Belly that's let go what it thinks it needs to do. And Qigong it's Feng Song. Translated as relax, but it's actually let go and loosen. So aloha, aloha, aloha. Imagine you have like a little plug at the servant. It's called your hui yin. It's between the two holes, in between. It's sort of next to the base of your spine. You imagine a little plug there. Let that plug open and expand to be about the size of maybe a toilet bowl. And let the waterfall of light wash through and wash you free of all the stuff that's like been wanting to come out and waiting to come out. Let that tight ass loosen. Yeah. So like aloha, 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 aloha. As thoughts come up, come back to your breath. Now deep breath in, deep breath out. Breathe in the light, breathe out everything else. Aloha, aloha, aloha. We did a healing call like right before you. We used to do this on TikTok where we'd have in the pandemic, we'd have like 5,000 people call in, join us for just aloha. And then we had them like pick a number. So we drew one of the 99 names. And the one that we drew today was the one that has to do with inner torment that we don't even know we've got. All those knots, resentment. And interestingly, like two of the letters in that name is like F you. You go, F you. So just go, let yourself feel that. Like any place where you've got, disappointment, frustration, and F you is the sound is foo, 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 foo. And when you say it in a really authentic way, with whatever you're really feeling, it might bring up like rage and anger and disappointment and frustration, all that kind of thing. But when you say it authentically, it opens the door to deep compassion and deep mercy for yourself. That forgiveness that's deeper than that we're all really needing right now. Aloha, fu. Aloha, fu. Aloha, fu. Aloha, fu. Aloha, fu. And if an image bubbles up or a memory bubbles up, you're gonna go, "Foo, F you." Give yourself freedom to, voice it, sound it, and then back to your heart for you, and feel like a foo angel right here, like a good mother, a good father, like the lover you've been waiting for, just totally loving you, like every love you exactly as you are, like no questions asked. Yalla. Aloha. Oh. Aloha. We'll close this play with aloha. 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 We lost Matt. He went into another realm. Yay.
He's in another realm.
Yeah. Aloha. How is that for you, Abraham? And peace is a big deal for me. Huge. Like let's talk about what we can do to help bring more peace to the world. One breath at a time. Yeah. One FU at a time.
It was really I needed that, and thank you for holding that space and for inviting us to do that exercise. I feel very in my body and relaxed, and it's something that you said at the beginning that struck me. That and kind of what you're embodying right now is how I've been guilty of this. How we look for fixes and self-development and mental health and spiritual enlightenment or whatever, but it's focusing on the breath in our body
Yeah.
is such
It's pretty
a
simple.
powerful thing. It's so for something that we're so in all the time, except when we're not. It's funny how easy it is to forget how we can access.
Yeah, no, it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. Like clean thoughts, clean food, clean, and move your body and breathe in deep and feel what you feel. And if we were like if we were local together, I'd invite you out dancing afterwards. Not romantically, just go like
Don't
tear
tempt me
up
with a
like
good time. I
yeah,
got addicted to swing dancing. Long story short, I got addicted to swing dancing in 2019. But I love dancing is a divine sport. It's one of the
Oh yeah.
it's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
play and it's magical to create in the moment, and it's
Yeah.
I mean that's a whole nother conversation, a whole nother episode of
No, we're gonna talk. We're gonna go dance.
yeah, we're gonna dance. Perfect. That sounds great.
Yeah, yeah.
That sounds great to me. Well, Nadia, it's such a pleasure to have you and to share with us your compassion and your love and just who you are. It's I'll just say it again. I needed that. I needed that breathing exercise. So thank you for that, and thank you for sharing that with us.
We actually do it every day, so you're welcome to come join us if you like. There.
Beautiful. I appreciate that. It's just a reminder how powerful our breath is and being in our body, and how there's never a moment we don't have that option.
Breath, and with those sounds added on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
with
it's
the
like the vibrating of the diaphragm
no, the sounds are actually sound coded. Like the sounds will it actually brings in a certain light pack, a certain body information, actually pings a certain place in your heart, brings up different stuff. It's sound coded. So the breath is great, movement's great. Now go another step, bring in the sounds. Aloha works beautifully. Yeah. Yeah. And there's a whole like body of sounds that work for different things.
Yeah.
That yeah.
I felt it. Just saying those words, saying those syllables reminds me of a similar experience with Aum. Aum, meditating to Aum.
Yeah.
To Om.
So
it's
Om is good, and the practice is actually called remembrance. Remembering who you are, remembering the love, remembering your heart, what it's really feeling. Remembering that maybe there's somebody, something out there that actually cares about you and loves you and has things under control, because I certainly don't. We certainly don't. Yeah.
Well,
just letting,
it's powerful, and I appreciate you sharing that and inviting us to do it right now, because it was perfect timing for me to really take a breath and to utter that aloha full body, and the vibrations and the sounds of how it's healing. I can never overlook that power. Well, I really just so glad that you joined us today, Nadia, and to share with us your stories, your wisdom, your insights, and just your exercise, your breathing, and just it's nice to experience you embodying that and giving and being a healer for others. And I acknowledge you for being that space for others to be in their body, to take responsibility for what is and accept what is, which it gives us our power to be infinite and unlimited when we're out of the space of mental chatter and this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong, I'm angry, I'm sad, that's good, that person's ugly, this person's pretty, it's like all these identifications and labels. But thank you so much, Nadia, for being with us. I just want to thank you again for being our guest today and sharing with us.
And can we all give Matthew and Abram we go like this and we see them in their perfection. They've worked really hard like for years, and they did double time on me because I'm like a tech, like everything that they worked hours to help get it just like the dots connected. So let's give Matt and Abram some love. Just deep breath in, deep breath out. See them in their perfection. See them the way, imagine seeing them through the heart of an angel, the heart of our maker. Aloha. The parent that sees only the good and just totally loves you for it and is so grateful. Aloha. Aloha. Aloha.
Oh, thank you. I received it. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you for that. Really, thank you again for being our guest today. I'm gonna take a quick moment to check in, and as we complete today, thank you all for being with us. Thank you, Nadia, for being our guest. I want to take this real quick moment to invite you to be a guest on our stage. No matter who you are, where you're from, what you believe, what you look like, you have something unique that can lift others up. You have something beautiful that can empower people through what you've experienced and overcome. And we want to invite you to share, to be on the stage and shine your light with us. That's an invitation. And this is all part of One Day's mission, is bringing you and me and communities together in joyous celebration, unifying humanity in our diversity to create a better world for us all. And our vision is humanity's rising in a connected world, with each person's unique gifts, unique contributions, unique genius being valued and magnified through a higher level of collaboration, producing unprecedented new realms of possibility. Thank you so much again, Nadia, for being with us. Thank you. I'm really grateful to have you. And to all of our people joining us, we'll see you next time. Be safe and be well. And as always, one day is today.
Aloha.
Oh my God.